Confidence is not something we are born with. It is something we cultivate, nurture, and fiercely protect. It begins in the quiet moments of doubt and grows stronger every time we choose to believe in ourselves despite the odds. The journey to unshakable confidence is deeply personal, and it starts with the choice to trust that we are enough exactly as we are, even when the world says otherwise. You don't have to have it all figured out to begin. Confidence grows with every step you take in uncertainty, every risk you dare to take, and every time you raise your voice when it's trembling. You build it by stepping out of your comfort zone and facing rejection, not once, but over and over until rejection becomes redirection. In every no lies an invitation to find a yes that truly belongs to you. Knowing who you are is the foundation of confidence. When you own your identity, your quirks, your story without apology, you become a force that cannot be ignored. You do not need to shrink to fit into spaces that were never built for you. You deserve to take up space boldly, without hesitation and with your head held high. Authenticity is power. Let go of the need for validation from others. No one else gets to define your worth or measure your value. The moment you stop chasing approval is the moment you find freedom. True confidence is quiet. It doesn't need applause or permission. It walks into the room knowing it belongs. Even when no one offers a chair, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the path that leads to it. When you fall forward, learn from your scars, wear them as badges of honor, and rise again. The bravest people are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who keep showing up after every fall. Confidence is born in the moments you choose resilience over retreat. Surround yourself with people who see your light even when you feel dim. Let them remind you of your greatness, but do not rely on them to be the source of it. Your strength must come from within. Learn to be your own cheerleader. Clap for yourself when no one else does. Your belief in yourself should be louder than any doubt. Speak up. Your voice is powerful and your words matter. Do not silence yourself to make others comfortable. The world doesn't change through silence. It changes when someone dares to speak, to challenge, to inspire. Confidence grows each time you dare to be heard, even when your voice shakes. Speak with purpose. Speak your truth and speak often. Confidence is not a magical trait that some people are born with and others are doomed to live without. It is a deliberate, conscious choice that we make every single day, sometimes every single moment. It's the choice to rise instead of retreat, to show up instead of shrink, and to believe impossibility even when fear whispers doubt into our ears. Confidence doesn't arrive suddenly in the mail with your name on it. It's sculpted slowly through your willingness to take a deep breath and move forward even when you're not sure what the outcome will be. It lives in your decision to keep showing up, regardless of whether or not you feel ready. Every time you choose to take action, especially when you're uncertain, you are casting a vote for your own growth. You are reinforcing the belief that you are capable, adaptable, and strong enough to handle whatever comes your way. Even a small step taken in fear holds the power to change how you see yourself. The act of daring begins to silence the inner critic and replaces it with evidence of your resilience. You begin to realize that you are not defined by how confident you feel in the moment, but by the courage you summon in spite of how you feel. Action builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. Taking risks is often portrayed as reckless or intimidating, but in truth, risk is the language of progress. When you step into the unknown, you give yourself permission to grow into someone new. Yes, there's fear. Yes, there's uncertainty. But there's also magic, the kind of magic that transforms self-doubt into self-belief. With every risk you take, you stretch the limits of what you believe is possible for yourself. You begin to trust not that everything will go perfectly, but that you will be okay no matter what happens. That is the core of true confidence, not a guarantee of success, but an unshakable faith in your own ability to adapt, learn, and keep going. Persistence, more than talent or timing, is what ultimately fuels unshakable confidence. It's easy to feel confident when things are going your way, but the real test comes when they aren't. When doors close, when plans fall apart, when the results don't match the effort, those are the moments that determine the strength of your belief in yourself. If you keep pushing, keep striving, keep standing tall in the middle of the storm, you will not only build confidence, you will become unstoppable. The most powerful confidence isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, determined and relentless. It's the kind that's earned, not gifted through action, risk, and the refusal to give up in the face of doubt. So many people wait for the perfect moment to begin, the moment they feel completely prepared, fully confident, and entirely fearless. But that moment rarely comes. The truth is, if you wait until you feel 100% ready, you may never start at all. Growth doesn't begin when everything is certain. It begins the moment you take action in the midst of uncertainty. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to have mastered the path. What you need is the courage to take that first trembling step, even when your hands shake and your heart races. Progress begins where perfection ends, when you stop waiting to be ready and choose to move anyway. Starting before you're ready is not about being reckless. It's about trusting that clarity will come through movement, not in the stillness of overthinking. Life rewards the brave, not the perfect. Every bold decision you've ever admired began with someone who didn't have it all figured out, but they moved anyway. They acted with a whisper of belief and a roar of determination. And that's what you must do. You learn by doing. You build strength by lifting, not by watching. The path unfolds when your feet begin to walk it, not when you sit on the sidelines analyzing every step. Waiting for readiness is a disguise for fear. Walking through the fear is how you become who you're meant to be. When you start before you're ready, you step into a mindset of growth. You embrace the truth that it's okay to be messy, to make mistakes, to fall short. As long as you keep moving, every stumble becomes a lesson. Every misstep teaches you something you couldn't have learned standing still. The most extraordinary transformations often begin with confusion and fear. But as you navigate the unknown, you collect confidence, you sharpen your instincts, and you find your rhythm. You don't become fearless before you act. You become fearless because you did. You realize that readiness isn't a prerequisite for greatness. Action is. People who succeed, who rise, who leave their mark on the world aren't the ones who waited until they felt enough. They're the ones who decided they were done waiting. They chose to build the plane while flying it. They let their purpose overpower their hesitation. They understood that life doesn't pause until we're ready. It moves, it flows, evolves. And if you want to grow, you must move with it. You must jump before the net appears and trust that you will either find your wings or build them on the way down. The first step is never perfect, but it is powerful. Start now, unsure. Just start scared. Your future is waiting on the other side of in your first imperfect move. There is incredible power in owning who you are. In a world that constantly tries to shape you into something more acceptable, more predictable, more digestible, it takes immense courage to simply be yourself. But the moment you stop hiding and stop filtering and stop conforming, something extraordinary happens. You become magnetic. The truth is, no one else has your voice, your story, your journey. When you own your identity, you send a clear message to the world. This is who I am, and I'm not afraid to take up space. That kind of confidence doesn't just turn heads, it turns lives around. Starting with your own, being unapologetically yourself isn't about being loud or rebellious. It's about being deeply rooted in your truth. It means choosing authenticity over acceptance and integrity over imitation. There will always be people who won't understand you, who try to mold you into their expectations, but their misunderstanding is not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to live aligned with who you truly are. When you embrace your identity without shame or hesitation, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of pretending, and in that freedom, you discover your real strength, the ability to stand tall exactly as you are without needing to become anything else. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who try to fit in, they are the ones who dare to stand out. They know that blending in might win temporary approval, but it will never create lasting impact. True influence comes from embracing what makes you different. Your background, your experiences, your voice, they are not obstacles, they are assets. Every piece of you tells a story, and when you stop dimming your light to make others comfortable, you start to shine in ways you never imagined. Your authenticity is not only your strength, it's your superpower. There's a reason why people are drawn to those who are unapologetically themselves. Authenticity is refreshing in a world full of masks. It reminds others that it's okay to be real, to be imperfect, to be human. By owning your identity, you give silent permission to everyone around you to do the same. You become a mirror that reflects back courage, confidence, and truth. So stop asking for permission to be who you are. You don't need approval to exist. You are not too much. You are not too different. You are exactly enough. And the world doesn't need another copy. It needs you in full color, standing boldly in the truth of your own identity. The desire to be liked, accepted, and approved of is deeply human. From the time we're young, we're taught to look outside ourselves for affirmation, to measure our value by how others see us. But chasing validation is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much praises or approval you collect, it will never be enough if you don't believe in your own worth first. When you constantly seek others' opinions to define your identity, you give away your power. True confidence begins when you stop asking the world, "Am I enough?" and start telling yourself, "I already am." Detaching from validation doesn't mean you stop caring about people or feedback. It means you stop depending on it to feel whole. When your sense of worth is tied to applause, likes, compliments, or recognition, your self-esteem becomes fragile, easily shattered by criticism or silence. But when your confidence is rooted internally in your values, your purpose, and your truth, you become unshakable. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable or inflate yourself to impress. You simply stand firm in who you are, and that quiet certainty becomes your greatest strength. Letting go of the need for validation frees you to live authentically. You start making choices that reflect your own goals and beliefs, not what you think others want to see. You stop editing yourself to earn acceptance, and you start living in alignment with your soul. When you stop performing and start living truthfully, the right people are drawn to your energy, not the version of you they imagine, but the real you. And the people who walk away, let them. Not everyone deserves access to your truth. Approval should never be the price of authenticity. The most liberating moment in your journey is when you finally realize that you don't need to be understood to be worthy. You don't need applause to be powerful. You don't need someone else's permission to shine. The moment you decide to stop seeking validation is the moment you begin to define success, beauty, strength, and happiness on your own terms. And in doing so, you become whole, not because others said so, but because you chose to be. When your sense of self is no longer tied to someone else's opinion, you rise into a confidence that no one can give you and no one can take away. Failure is often seen as something to fear, to avoid at all costs, but in truth, it is one of life's most powerful teachers. Every setback, every misstep, and every disappointment holds a lesson that success alone could never teach. When you begin to see failure not as the end, but as the beginning of something greater, you change the way you experience your entire journey. It becomes less about avoiding pain and more about uncovering potential. Failing forward means embracing your mistakes, learning from them, and using them as fuel to grow stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. There is no success story that doesn't have chapters filled with failure. Behind every achievement lies a trail of attempts that didn't go as planned. But what separates the ones who rise from the ones who stop is mindset. The ones who rise don't let failure define their worth. They let it define their direction. They understand that falling doesn't mean you're unworthy or incapable. It means you were brave enough to try. And in that trying, even when things fall apart, you gather experience, resilience, and clarity. You start to realize that every no is leading you to a better noise, and every stumble is setting you up for a stronger stride. When you adopt the mindset of failing forward, you free yourself from the chains of perfectionism. You give yourself permission to take risks, to aim high, and to dream boldly, because failure is no longer something to fear. It's something to expect, learn from, and move through. Instead of dreading what might go wrong, you start to get curious about what could go right. You begin to trust that the process, no matter how messy, is still shaping you into someone extraordinary. And each time you get back up, you stand a little taller, not in spite of the failure, but because of it. Failing forward is not about glorifying struggle. It's about redefining it. It's about knowing that rejection, embarrassment, and falling short are not signs to quit, but signs that you are stretching beyond your comfort zone. They are the landmarks on the road to something meaningful. Every failure carries a gift, a lesson, a redirection, or a deeper connection to your purpose. And when you choose to see those gifts, when you refuse to be broken by a momentary defeat, you unlock a level of confidence that no success can give you. Because then, even when you fall, you are still moving forward. There is a kind of power that comes from within, a deep, unwavering strength that doesn't rely on outside applause or constant reassurance. Building inner support means becoming your own biggest advocate, the person who believes in you when no one else does. It means learning to speak to yourself with kindness, with courage, and with compassion, especially when the world goes silent. Because the truth is, not everyone will always see your vision and not everyone will understand your path. But if you can learn to cheer for yourself in those quiet, lonely moments, you'll unlock a resilience that no external approval can match. Too often we wait for others to tell us we're doing well before we allow ourselves to feel proud. But what if your worth didn't depend on someone else's recognition? What if your belief in yourself came from a place so grounded, so rooted that nothing could shake it? That's the power of inner support. It's the voice inside you that says, keep going even when the road gets dark. It's the part of you that whispers, you've got this, when everything seems to fall apart. When you become your own source of encouragement, you stop begging for scraps of validation and start feasting on your own strength. But inner support doesn't mean isolation. It also means choosing wisely who you allow into your life. Surrounding yourself with people who uplift, inspire, and empower you is a form of self-respect. You are influenced by the energy around you, so protect your environment like it's sacred, because it is. Let go of toxic voices that plant seeds of doubt and make space for relationships that reflect back the light within you. Positive people won't fix all your problems, but they will remind you of your power when you forget it. And in their presence, your own voice grows louder, clearer, and more courageous. The combination of being your own cheerleader and cultivating a positive circle is unstoppable. When you have both inner fire and external support, confidence becomes your natural state. You wake up knowing that no matter what the day holds, you're not facing it alone. You have yourself, and you've chosen to be surrounded by those who reflect your growth, not your fear. That kind of support is not built in a day, but moment by moment, decision by decision. And the more you nurture it, the more unstoppable you become. Because when you truly believe in yourself and create a life filled with positivity, you become the kind of force that nothing can break. Your voice is more than sound. It is your power, your truth, your presence in the world. Using it means more than just speaking words. It means owning your story, standing up for your values, and refusing to shrink when the moment calls for strength. Far too many people remain silent out of fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not being understood. But silence rarely protects us, it only erases us. When you begin to use your voice, even if it trembles at first, you plant the seed of confidence deep within yourself. Every time you speak up, you declare to the world and to yourself that you matter. Speaking up for yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. You are your own advocate, your own protector, and your own truth teller. When you deny yourself the right to express your needs, your boundaries, or your dreams, you begin to feel invisible. But when you voice what you believe in, when you defend your space, your heart, your ideas, you start to build a relationship with yourself rooted in self-respect. You no longer wait to be rescued, you show up for yourself. And in doing so, you inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of courage that starts with one strong voice of yours. But your voice doesn't exist only for you. It also exists for the people who can't use theirs yet. Speaking up for others who are unheard or unseen is one of the most powerful forms of leadership. Confidence doesn't grow in an isolation, it grows when we lift each other. When you choose to be bold in the face of injustice or silence in a room full of fear, you become more than just confident, you become a catalyst. Expressing yourself isn't just about personal growth, it's about creating a world where truth has space to breathe and where every voice matters. And that starts with yours. Confidence isn't built in the moments when you stay quiet to keep the peace. It's built in the moments when you say what needs to be said, even when your voice shakes. Every act of honest expression reinforces your self. You begin to trust yourself, not just as someone who thinks and feels, but as someone who acts on those thoughts and feelings. The more you speak, the clearer your voice becomes, and that clarity creates certainty. Not because everything will always go your way, but because you'll know deep down that you showed up with truth. And that kind of self-expression is the soil where unshakable confidence grows. In a world that constantly glorifies the big moments, grand achievements, public accolades, life-changing milestones, it's easy to overlook the quiet victories. But the truth is, confidence is not built by waiting for a major breakthrough. It's built by honoring every step forward, no matter how small. Celebrating your small wins is an act of self-respect. It's a way of saying, I see you, I'm proud of you, and your effort matters. When you acknowledge the little progress you make each day, you train your mind to focus on growth rather than gaps. And that mindset becomes the foundation of lasting confidence. Comparison is one of the quickest ways to kill your joy and dilute your progress. The journey you're on is your own, and your pace, your timing, your path will never look like anyone else's, and that's exactly how it should be. When you stop looking sideways and start looking inward, you realize how much you've truly accomplished. Every time you chose to show up, to keep going again, to keep going when it had been easier to quit, you were winning. These moments may not get public recognition, but they are the bricks that build your strength, your confidence, and your sense of self-worth. There's something powerful about pausing to celebrate what most people overlook. Finishing a tough workout, speaking up in a meeting, waking up early when you didn't feel like it, setting a boundary, learning something new. These may not seem groundbreaking, but together they shape who you are becoming. When you recognize and celebrate these wins, you affirm your ability to grow and evolve. You create momentum. You turn ordinary effort into motivation. And over time, this consistent reinforcement transforms how you see yourself, not as someone who's still lacking, but as someone who's already thriving. Celebrating your small wins also teaches you gratitude, not just for the outcome, but for the process. It shifts your focus from needing to prove something to simply appreciating your progress. It invites joy into your journey and creates a deeper connection with yourself. Because confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from progress. And when you learn to applaud your growth without comparing it to someone else's success, you reclaim your power. You realize that your story is not behind, not ahead, but exactly where it needs to be, and that every little step forward is something worth celebrating. Perfection is a myth that society often sells as the ultimate goal, but in reality, it is our imperfections that make us human and deeply relatable. When you embrace your flaws, you stop hiding behind masks or trying to fit into an impossible standard. Instead, you reveal the real, raw, and beautiful parts of yourself. It's in those imperfections that your true power lies, because as they tell a story only you can tell. They create a unique fingerprint that sets you apart from everyone else. People don't remember perfection. They remember authenticity, vulnerability, and the courage it takes to show up just as you are. Your flaws are not weaknesses waiting to be fixed. They are strengths waiting to be acknowledged. Every scar, every mistake, every quirk is a chapter in your journey that adds depth and texture to your character. When you stop fighting against your imperfections and start embracing them, you invite others to do the same. You become a beacon for authenticity in a world obsessed with image. The beauty of imperfection is that it opens the door for connection. It breaks down barriers because it reminds people that no one is flawless, and that's okay. Your willingness to accept yourself fully creates a space where confidence can flourish naturally. Embracing imperfections also liberates you from the exhausting chase of approval and perfectionism. When you accept that you are enough, even with your flaws, you no longer need to overcompensate or hide parts of yourself to be accepted. This freedom ignites a boldness that is magnetic. It means you can laugh at your mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward without fear or judgment. It means your confidence is not fragile. It's rooted in the knowledge that your worth is not tied to being flawless, but to being fully, unapologetically you. And that kind of confidence is unforgettable. What makes you memorable is not how polished you appear, but how real you feel. When you embrace your imperfections, you send a message that perfection isn't the goal. Growth, authenticity, and courage are. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin, who can admit they don't have it all together, but keep showing up anyway. Your flaws make you human, relatable, and inspiring. They remind others that it's okay to be imperfect, because it's in those imperfections that our deepest strength and beauty reside. When you own that truth, you don't just build confidence, you become unforgettable. The way you talk to yourself shapes everything about your experience, your confidence, your choices, even your happiness.
Yeah.
So many of us are trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, where negative thoughts become loud critics that sabotage our progress and drown out our potential. Reframing your inner dialogue means recognizing that these voices are not habits. And the incredible news is that habits can be changed. When you consciously replace harsh criticism with compassion and empowering words, you start to rewrite your story from one of limitation to one of possibility. This shift isn't just comforting, it's transformative. Self-doubt often sounds like a persistent whisper that questions your worth or ability, but you don't have to believe it. Imagine treating yourself with the same kindness you offer a dear friend, patient, encouraging, and understanding. Compassionate inner dialogue fuels courage, not fear. It reminds you that making mistakes doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're learning. It reminds you that progress is a journey, not a race. When you nurture your mind with these gentle truths, you create a foundation of resilience and strength that helps you stand tall even in the face of uncertainty. This isn't about ignoring challenges. It's about meeting them with a mindset that lifts you rather than tears you down. Replacing self-doubt with empowering thoughts requires practice and intention, but each time you catch a negative thought and shift it, you build new mental pathways. Instead of "I can't," you begin to say "I'm learning." Instead of "I'm not good enough," you say "I'm worthy just as I am." These small changes may seem subtle, but over time they compound into a powerful force that reshapes your identity. Your inner voice becomes a source of motivation rather than hesitation. You start to see possibilities where once you saw barriers. You become your own ally, pushing you toward your dreams instead of holding you back. The journey to reframe your inner dialogue is also a journey of self-discovery. You learn to notice the stories you tell yourself and question whether they're true or helpful. Because you become curious about your thoughts instead of afraid of them. This curiosity opens the door to freedom because it reveals that you are not your doubts. You are the observer of those doubts. And as you grow this awareness, you find peace in knowing that your worth and potential are not defined by fleeting thoughts or feelings. With a compassionate and empowering inner voice guiding you, confidence grows naturally, rooted in a deep, unshakable belief in yourself. Life is a constant journey, not a destination, and the most confident people understand that growth is never truly complete. To pursue continuous growth means to stay curious about the world and about yourself, to embrace the unknown with open arms rather than fear it. It's a mindset that says there is always more to learn, more to experience, more to become. When you commit to this endless evolution, you break free from the trap of complacency and step into a life filled with possibility. Curiosity ignites your passion and propels you forward even when the path is unclear. Growth often requires stepping outside your comfort zone, something many avoid because it feels uncomfortable or risky. But within that discomfort lies the magic of transformation. Every time you challenge yourself to learn something new, face a fear, or try a different way of thinking, you're expanding your capacity to thrive. This willingness to evolve keeps your confidence alive and adaptable, able to withstand change and setbacks. Instead of fearing what you don't know, you welcome it as an opportunity to sharpen your skills, deepen your understanding, and enrich your life. The more you grow, the more you realize that your potential is not fixed. It's limitless. The pursuit of continuous growth also means embracing mistakes as part of the process. Each stumble or failure is a lesson waiting to be uncovered, a chance to refine your approach and strengthen your resolve. When you adopt this perspective, learning becomes less about perfection and more about progress. This mindset shifts your focus from what you lack to what you can gain, fueling a hunger for knowledge and self-improvement that never fades. It's this hunger that builds resilience and a powerful sense of self, because you know that no matter what happens, you're always evolving, always moving forward. Finally, continuous growth is a gift you give yourself that keeps on giving, expands not only your skills, but also your perspective, your empathy and your confidence. It makes you more adaptable to life's inevitable changes and better equipped to handle challenges with grace. When you stay curious and keep learning, you cultivate a vibrant inner world that fuels your outer success. The journey of growth is one that never ends, and when you choose to walk it with enthusiasm and openness, you create a life that is rich, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. Trusting your decisions is one of the most empowering steps you can take toward building unshakable confidence. It means embracing ownership of your choices, even when the path isn't clear or the outcome uncertain. Each decision you make, big or small, is a reflection of your inner wisdom and your willingness to take responsibility for your life. When you stop second-guessing yourself and start trusting your instincts, you shift from being a passive observer to an active creator of your destiny. Confidence grows when you realize that no matter the results, you have the power to choose and the courage to stand by those choices. Following your instincts is like tuning into a deep inner compass that has been quietly guiding you all along. It's that gut feeling that nudges you toward what feels right, even if logic or others' opinions pull you in a different direction. When you honor that instinct, you tap into your authentic self, a source of clarity and strength that cannot be easily shaken by doubt or external noise. Learning to trust your intuition doesn't mean ignoring advice or ignoring risks. It means balancing careful thought with that inner knowing. This balance is where confidence thrives because you become someone who acts not out of fear or hesitation, but out of clear intention and self-trust. Moving with intention means living deliberately, making choices that align with your values, goals, and true desires. It's a powerful practice that turns uncertainty into purpose. When you trust your decisions, you no longer drift aimlessly or wait for permission. You move forward with clarity and determination. This sense of intentionality creates momentum that propels you toward your dreams. Even when obstacles arise, each step becomes meaningful, not random, and with every move made on purpose, your confidence builds deeper roots. You stop living reactively and start shaping your life by design, knowing that your choices matter and you are fully capable of navigating their consequences. Owning your decisions also means embracing the lessons that come from them, regardless of the outcome. Trust doesn't guarantee perfection or success, but it does guarantee growth. When you commit to your choices and move forward without regret or self-blame, you free yourself from the paralysis of doubt. You learn that confidence isn't about always being right, it's about being willing to stand by your decisions, learn from them, and keep moving ahead. This ownership is a form of self-respect that builds resilience and inner strength. Trusting your decisions is ultimately an act of faith in yourself, and that faith is the foundation of unshakable confidence.